George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. You think these are the guys who won the American Revolution, right? The ones on our money? But what if I told you the entire revolution was saved by a group of heroes you've never heard of? That the whole war depended on a random fisherman, a spy who lived with the enemy for over a year, and a Native American woman who literally saved the army from starving. Today, we're showing you the real heroes who risked it all for freedom. You won't find their names on any monuments, but without them, America wouldn't even exist. These are the forgotten legends of the American Revolution. First up, the Continental Army was about to be completely wiped out. It's August 1776, and the Americans just got destroyed in a battle. Washington and his 9,000 soldiers were trapped. The entire British army in front of them, an impossible river behind them. It was game over. And then this guy shows up, John Glover. This dude wasn't some fancy general. He was a tough fisherman from Massachusetts. And his crew, a bunch of other fishermen who knew how to handle a boat in any weather. These were not soldiers. They were sea-hardened badasses. So on August 29th, Washington gives Glover an impossible challenge. Evacuate all 9,000 soldiers, their horses, and their giant cannons across the river in one night under a lucky fog. And if the British hear a single thing, everyone dies. For hours, Glover and his fishermen rowed back and forth in total silence. This was a crazy, high-stakes stealth mission. One loud noise and the entire army would be annihilated. By morning, they did it. 9,000 soldiers were safe. The Continental Army was saved from being destroyed before the war even really began. The revolution could have ended right there, but thanks to a crew of fishermen, it survived. We all know that famous painting of Washington crossing the Delaware, but nobody remembers the fishermen who literally rowed him there. If you thought saving an entire army was insane, this next hero broke every single rule of her time. The battlefield was no place for a woman back then, but apparently nobody told that to Deborah Sampson. She was so patriotic that in 1772, she did something that was completely unthinkable. She cut off her hair, disguised as a man, and enlisted in the army under the fake name Robert Shirtliff. And she actually did it. And she wasn't hiding in the back. For over a year, she fought in dangerous battles. Can you imagine the constant fear? Every single second, one mistake and her secret would be revealed, leading to total disaster. And get this, she was shot with 2 musket balls in her thigh. She let the surgeons fix a cut on her head, but to keep her secret safe, she dug one of the bullets out of her own leg with a pocket knife. That is next level intense. The other bullet stayed in her leg for the rest of her life. Her insane run only ended when she got a fever and passed out, and a doctor finally discovered her secret. But instead of being punished, she was given an honorable discharge. She had to fight for years, but she eventually became one of the only women to get a military pension for fighting in the Revolution. Deborah Sampson proved that courage has no gender, even if it took history a couple hundred years to notice. Okay, our last hero had to hide her identity. This next hero fought so everyone would know his name. This is Salem Poor. He was born into slavery, but he bought his own freedom in 1769 for 27 pounds, a crazy amount of money, like what a guy made in a whole year. The second the war started, he signed up to fight. And at the Battle of Bunker Hill, one of the first and bloodiest fights of the war, this guy was an absolute legend. He was so impressive that 14 of his officers did something that almost never happened. They wrote a petition to the government. They said Poor acted like a master-level officer and was an incredibly brave and gallant soldier. They literally wrote to the government saying, "You need to recognize this guy's bravery." And he didn't stop at Bunker Hill. He re-enlisted and fought for years, even surviving the horrible winter at Valley Forge and fighting in massive battles. This man bought his own freedom and then fought to win it for a nation that was still enslaving hundreds of thousands of people. His story is a powerful, unbelievable chapter in American history. Winning a war isn't just about fighting, it's about spies. And this next guy was one of the most insane spies of all time. His name was Daniel Bissell. In 1781, Bissell volunteered for what was basically a suicide mission. He would pretend to be a deserter, join the British in New York City, and steal all their secrets. For 13 months, he lived a double life, a patriot ghost walking right among the enemy. He even joined a unit led by America's biggest traitor, Benedict Arnold, while secretly drawing maps and memorizing everything. Every day was a tightrope walk. If he got caught, he wouldn't be a prisoner of war, he'd be hanged as a spy. After 13 long months, he escaped back to the Americans with a goldmine of intelligence. His information was so good that George Washington personally honored him. He was given one of the nation's first military awards, the Badge of Military Merit, which was the original Purple Heart. This guy was literally James Bond, but for real. You've probably heard of Valley Forge. It was the absolute lowest point for the American army. The soldiers were starving, freezing to death, and it looked like it was all over. In this moment of complete desperation, help showed up from a totally unexpected place. A Native American tribe, the Oneida Nation, allied with the Americans, and this Oneida woman, Polly Cooper, became a legend. The Oneida traveled hundreds of miles and arrived with tons of special white corn that was super nutritious. The only problem? The starving soldiers had no idea how to cook it. They were about to waste all this life-saving food. So Polly Cooper stayed. For months, she lived with the army, teaching them how to cook the corn to get all its nutrients. She nursed sick men back to health and is credited with helping a huge part of the army survive that winter. The story goes that Martha Washington herself was so grateful that she gave Polly a shawl as a thank you. Polly Cooper and the Oneida Nation were critical allies in a moment of crisis, and their story is almost never told. So, the American Revolution wasn't just won by the guys on our dollar bills. It was won by fishermen who pulled off an impossible escape, a woman who disguised herself to fight, a formerly enslaved man who became a war hero, a spy who lived with the enemy for a year, and by Native American allies who showed up in the darkest hour. These heroes, John Glover, Deborah Sampson, Salem Poor, Daniel Bissell, Polly Cooper, and so many more, prove that history is way more interesting than the version in the textbooks. Their stories deserve to be remembered. They remind us that revolutions aren't won by a few famous people, they're won by countless ordinary people doing extraordinary, insane things. If you believe these forgotten stories deserve to be heard, smash that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. And let us know in the comments which of these heroes you found most inspiring. Thanks for watching.